Hello everyone! Welcome back if you've seen me before. If not, welcome to my channel. My name is Lauren and I'm healing my chronic fatigue and adrenal fatigue by healing my old wounds, my past trauma, my attachment trauma from my early childhood. And I'm sharing what I'm learning and what I have learned with you on this channel so that you can heal your past in order to heal your body if you have chronic fatigue or adrenal fatigue or potentially another chronic illness that I'm not experienced to share experience with. Healing childhood trauma or past trauma from any time in your life or before your life in past lives, anytime you heal any kind of trauma, I can promise you there's not gonna be a downside. If you evoke it before you're ready, yes, you can risk re-traumatizing yourself. But if you bring it up in a loving way and you have the tools and you're prepared to do it and your soul allows it up and you don't force it up, you just allow it up, and then you use certain tools like havening or EFT tapping to heal those wounds, to heal the wounds that are buried in your cells and in your cellular makeup, I can promise you, you're only going to see benefits from that. So no matter where you are and what journey you're on, this could be for you because we all have trauma. We all have trauma. We all have wounds from our past. And it's not common knowledge of how to heal it. You know, I think there's so much missing in each sector. For example, in psychology, I think the spiritual aspect is often missed. And even the body, the body is often missed. If you go to a somatic therapist or some trauma therapists are trained in somatic therapy as well, and those are the really good ones, but they're really rare, unfortunately. And so I believe, and I've said this so many times before, but I believe as human beings, we go through trauma and we have wounds. It's having wounds, having pain in our lives is this innate part. It's part of being a human being. It's benefiting us because when you have pain, you have to learn how to heal from that pain. And when you heal the pain, when you heal after pain, you get stronger. It's like that old saying that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Well, that's only if you heal it. But it's true, because if you heal it, you will get stronger in the end. And not only stronger, when you have a bunch of wounds that are clouding, it's like this giant cake of mud on you that is holding you down, weighing you down, and that's what fatigue is. There's this huge weight on you. And what is the weight? I believe it is all the past pains, all the past wounds that we have not healed. And they are having a physical resonance in our body that is weighing us down. It is a huge weight on us. We are more than physical beings. And if you're watching this channel, that probably resonates with you. We are also spiritual beings and energetic beings. And so taking care of our energetic selves is a vital part of our health. This is what I'm talking about, because I believe the emotions are the gateway between, and I didn't make this up, but I heard it and it really resonated with me, that that your emotions are the gateway between your physical and your spiritual self. I've also talked about the nervous system as being the physical part of you that is the gateway between your physical and your spiritual self, between you and your soul, because your nervous system provides so much information. It's actually, the nervous system is what's getting information from your cells. And so a lot of this journey, I realized something very recently that I hadn't put into these exact words that I want to share with you, because I think it's so helpful to see it this way. So when we have trauma and when we have wounds from our past that we have not healed, that have become embedded in our body, what happens so often, especially if they happened in our childhood, when we had a limited set of resources to our disposal of how to cope with these things, what often happens is we shut a part of ourselves down. We close off a little bit of the connection between us and source and spirit and the universe. We cut off a part of that. We sort of shrink it because what we're going through is too painful to experience in that moment. We also shut ourselves off. We close off our heart. You know, these are all different ways of saying sort of the same thing, that we shut down our bodies. We cut off our heart and our body from our head and our minds. And what happens is that over time, when you're cut off from your body, you also become numb. And particularly if you are a highly sensitive person or an empath who is very highly impacted by the external environment, your early childhood can be really painful. It's almost impossible to get through your childhood without a lot of pain and wounding in today's world if you're a highly sensitive person. And so when you experience all of these pains, you start shutting your body down unconsciously. This is completely unconscious. And when you do that, you're also numbing your nervous system. You're becoming callous to, unconsciously, to the way your nervous system responds to the environment. To have this ability to know how you're feeling in any given moment, because you experienced that ability, which is a natural ability of everybody, but even more so of highly sensitive people and empaths, is that you can feel the environment so acutely that when your environment is painful in any kind of way, and you have some sort of trauma, which is just emotions that are too much to be handled by the emotional resources that you have at a given time. That's just what trauma is. So when you experience some trauma, something that's too overwhelming for you to handle, to deal with in that moment, then the response is to shut down in some way, to shut something off. So over time, what happens is you learn this in childhood, and it continues for the rest of your life until you see it. And that's what this illness is. So you shut down your you shut down your response, your conscious response to your nervous system. You still feel a lot. You still feel a lot of pain, because you might be thinking, I still feel, you might feel like the world is just coming at you, and it's always inflicting on you. And it's because you haven't developed, because you weren't taught, and I wasn't either, and none of us really are, unless you're one of the 1 in a billion people, 1 in a million people that is raised by somebody that knows this, that you didn't have the skills, the empath skills that are required to cope with, and the spiritual practices, the methods that work for you to allow that energy to come in you and move through you and then be transformed into positive energy, to transmute energy in that way, to have negativity coming towards you, transmute it into positive energy. The thing that you have to realize about that is in order to do that process, you have to feel the negative energy really poignantly. And that is difficult, and that is impossible when you had a childhood where you developed all these defenses and you haven't broken those defenses down. If you still have those defenses, you just can't move that energy. It comes in and it gets stuck, because that's the pattern that was created, because as a child you can't do anything differently. So as an adult, it's our job to learn how to do these things. Well, but only if we're forced, is my experience, because it's so uncomfortable. It is so uncomfortable. And so the gift of this illness, how many times have I said this? If you've seen all my videos, I've said it so many times, but I'm going to say it again, that the gift of this illness is that it forces you to look at this process and reevaluate the entire way that you have been living in the world, the way you've been responding to the environment and other people and yourself, your whole life. The process of healing adrenal fatigue and chronic fatigue is the process of reworking, taking that apart and putting it back together in a new way. The way that you're living in the world is not working. And you would have been able to see that earlier if you hadn't had to shut down your response to your nervous system. But you had to, you did have to shut that down to protect yourself as a child. And so now you don't have the same response to your inability to perceive how your nervous system is responding accurately. You can't see it accurately anymore because of the defenses getting in the way. And that's how we develop severe adrenal fatigue. And I believe chronic fatigue. But adrenal fatigue, even more so, I can speak really confidently about adrenal fatigue in this aspect of the nervous system because the nervous system, and if you have adrenal fatigue and you've read other people's experiences as well, it's a pervasive experience that the problem is the nervous system. The nervous system is all, so you're either in stage 2 where your nervous system is all, and it's all activated and you can't sleep, you have insomnia, and you're in fight or flight all the time, and you're wired. You're just wired and tired. That wired and tired thing is stage 2. If you're in stage 3, you've passed that point and you're down, your whole nervous system has down-regulated. You're still in fight or flight, but you're also so fatigued. Your cortisol has dropped way down so that you can't hardly function anymore. And stage 4 is even more serious. A lot of people get bedridden and have heart palpitations and heart cardiac related experience that can wind them up in the hospital. It can get really serious. But what's happened there? What's happened is that over time, you're catching your nervous system in such a delayed part of the process that it can't not be seen. It's been so many years, it's had so much dysfunction for such a long time that now it's like it's screaming at you that you must see this. So I didn't catch mine until I was in stage 3 and pretty far into it. I was spiraling into the last stage of the part of 3, and I was if I hadn't gotten the help that I did to calm my nervous system with breathing, I would have gone into stage 4. I didn't know what to do. I was in a spiral, and I was so far gone, and maybe you can relate to this. But how did it get that far gone? Why didn't I notice before? Why didn't I notice earlier in stage 3? Why didn't I notice in stage 2? Why didn't I notice in stage 1? Why don't any of us know? Because people who develop adrenal fatigue have had to shut off that perception of their nervous system. They have this defense that says, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. I can't see that. I can't cope with that. Whatever my nervous system is doing, whatever it's responding, that's too much. It's too much. And of course you had to, because that's an old pattern that was created in your childhood, again, that you had to create to protect yourself, but now it's harming you. Now it's causing problems that are creating an actual illness in you. So I've described different ways of seeing this illness. There are a bunch of different ways to view it, and you can just pick whichever one resonates, or all of them. I pick all of them. Whichever one resonates at a certain time, that's the one I have. I have them all in my head, or I come up with a new one. Because these are complex illnesses, and all chronic illnesses are. It's complex in that the nervous system is very complex. And this is all subtle stuff. This is really subtle stuff. And emotional stuff it's the subtle body that we're talking about. It's the part of the body that you can't see. You can only feel and experience. And when you had to shut that off, feeling and experiencing your body in totality to protect yourself, that's when problems arise after years and years and years of this. So the part 2 of this, that's the problem. Part 1 is the problem, and part 2 is how do you heal that? So what do you do? So you've got this problem. You've had years of chronically not being able to see your nervous system accurately and be able to use it as cues for how to respond to the world. And that's what really it is. So the nervous system is getting messages from your soul of what's happening in the world and how you need to be reacting, how to take in the information that's coming at you, whether it's a person, whether it's the environment the space that you're in, whether it's a conversation that you're having with yourself, a relationship that you're having with yourself. The nervous system is one way that your soul and spirit, this is what I believe, communicate with you. And so if it's putting you in fight or flight, in a fear state, if the nervous system is in a fear state, that's information for you. So I want to encourage you to start, and believe me, this took me so long. This took me so, like, when I say this, it's not like this is obvious or something. It is not obvious. And it took me this illness and the severity of how far along I got in this illness to be debilitated in a lot of ways. It took me that long to figure this out. So none of this stuff, if you've already figured all this out, then I bow down to you, because that's amazing. It took me so long to figure this out, that to start looking at your nervous system as the signal that it's not something to cause panic. And this is where I have always gotten tripped up, and maybe you can relate to this. So when I developed adrenal fatigue and I learned that just everything activated me, I couldn't, a single thought, a single anything, a drop of vitamin B5, a drop of vitamin C would send my nervous system into panic. One interaction with a loved one or someone, my nervous system was so, I think of it as so frayed. It was on pins and needles all the time. And I was working in the beginning of 2019. I was doing all this breathing. But you realize I was trying to undo years and years and years of repetitive pattern of being and staying in a sympathetic state. And so that no matter what was coming at me in the environment, triggered a sympathetic response, because it was the only way that I knew to respond. It just got worse and worse and worse over time. And again, you might relate to this. So as I was trying to calm my nervous system with breathing, and it was working, there was a long period when it would work as long as I was breathing. So I would have maybe 2 30-minute periods a day that I could do my breathing, the adrenal breathing. One in the late morning and one in the late afternoon. To be breathing during that time was really crucial for me to be able to get through the rest of my day. If I couldn't do that, I was going on a continuously down, I couldn't hardly move my limbs. So, but as I was breathing, I could successfully calm my nervous system with this adrenal breathing method, this elliptical breathing method that I still use to this day. Although I don't really get activated anymore. Oh, thank God. It's worked. It really does work. It works. Breathing is the end-all, be-all, how to control the nervous system. Breathe, with particular breathing. So for adrenal fatigue sufferers, this elliptical breathing where you inhale slowly and exhale slowly, and you only do like 50 to 80% of your lung capacity, wherever it is that is not stimulating for you. And you do it, you don't stop at the top, you don't hold your breath ever at the top, and you don't hold your breath at the bottom ever. Because when you're in severe, and I'm only talking about severe adrenal fatigue, because there are lots of great breathing methods that have holding your breath, and it's really important part of the breath. But when you're in extreme adrenal fatigue, any holding of the breath will stimulate that sympathetic nervous system. And you don't want that. You do not want. That's the last thing you want. That's what you're trying to prevent. So just having a very slow oval loop. You can just imagine tracing. As you inhale, you're tracing the upswing. You reach the top and then you just slowly go down. And it's the same amount and the same speed up and down. You don't want any stimulation to the nervous system. So that's what I just will, till my dying day, I will sing the praises of that method. It would calm me in those 2 30-minute sections of the day. But then what would happen? I would get up, I would have a few minutes, and then something would happen. A thought. An interaction. The things I just said before. I had to go somewhere. Time. Just the simple matter of having time pressure. That is one of the most activating things, probably for me particularly. It's so triggering for me, is having time pressure. Anything can stimulate, and I go right back. Now, since I had that little break, it's not as bad, and my cells have had some break and had a little bit of rest period to recover, but my nervous system went right back. It was so frustrating, and I don't know if you have experienced this. Have you tried breathing exercises or just meditation? And you find that when you're meditating, you are good and you feel good, and then when you get up, you go right back to where you were. I mean, how frustrating is that? You're putting all this effort, you're doing it day after day after day after day after day, and you're still in this state. Well, why? It's because of the wounds. The trauma. It's the trauma and the wounds and the toxic thoughts that are coming from the toxic beliefs, which are coming from the wounds, the fears that are coming from the core wounds. The core wounds about love and safety. When you have core wounds about love and safety, what happens is you build all these beliefs that are congruent with those wounds, that make sense of those wounds. It's like, well, how do I make sense of that? How do I make sense of the sadness and the fear and the shame and the anger that I'm feeling and the helplessness and the powerlessness that I'm feeling? How do I make sense of this? As I'm thinking as a child, how do I make sense of this? You develop beliefs. One avenue, the route that I chose was, I am bad. I am not worthy. I am less than. You turn it towards yourself. In some ways, is safer than believing that your external environment is unsafe. Instead, you put it towards me. Oh, there's something wrong with me. Well, I can deal with that. It's almost the logic, and there isn't really a logic when you're a little child. This logic and reason develop around 7, but that's sort of how I think of it. It's like, well, I can handle. It's awful, and it's terrible, and it hurts, but it's better than feeling like I'll never be safe in my environment. So we develop beliefs, and they might be toxic beliefs because they're negative towards yourself. So you develop these toxic beliefs, and as you go through life, when you have beliefs, what happens is your external environment confirms your belief, because everything that you say that confirms the belief, you take in. You say, yep, I knew it. Everybody else is smarter. Everybody else can do this stuff that I can't do. Yep, I knew it. Or, yeah, I can't do that. I don't have the power to change anything. Of course, I'm helpless. These are not conscious thoughts, but it's something that's confirming. And then everything else that you see in the world that negates that belief is dismissed. And so what happens, this is unconscious. And so what happens is over time you build and build and build and build that belief. And so by the time you're an adult, you know that that's true. And you feel like your whole entire life has proven it to you. Yes, it's true. Of course it's true. If somebody were to try to argue with something that you believed, yeah, you might be able to say, yo, I don't believe that consciously, but your unconscious knows it because it's had all of this feedback, even though just because you unconsciously ignored all the feedback that negated that belief. But that belief, that negative belief, pervaded because you took in the information that confirmed it. So then what happens? As you go through your life, thoughts. Of course, your thoughts are going to start being in coherence with that negative, toxic belief. And so what happens is you develop all these negative thoughts and you don't even realize they're there. You get so used to this because you believed this stuff and you as a child, and the thoughts sort of came over time slowly, and they built up and they accumulated, and now your head is full of toxic thoughts about yourself and you don't even hear them. Because that's just you. That's what happens in there. That's just the way that's the way you experience yourself in your life. The things that you say, you don't even hear that you say them because you've said them so many times. And I've struggled with being able to hear certain things because I'm just so used to hearing them. It's another thing that your body becomes accustomed. It's just like the nervous system, that your body becomes accustomed to not reacting, not just trying to block off the information you're getting from your nervous system because it hurts. You're sort of numb to these toxic thoughts because they're just, you're so accustomed to them, and you're accustomed to numbing your response of your nervous system. And so these two things converge, and eventually you're going to have adrenal fatigue. So again, adrenal fatigue and chronic fatigue come from these emotional wounds, these old wounds that create this toxicity in your body, because toxic thoughts and toxic beliefs create toxicity. They create an environment that allows biological and chemical toxicity then to take hold. And so then it's like a runaway train, and you are getting more and more toxic physically and more toxic emotionally, and then all these things start confirming your beliefs. You believe that you're powerless. Well, then you end up becoming powerless to food, to the environment. You can't smell anything. You can't be around anything. I can't handle that. I can't handle that. I can't be around that. I can't be in the crowds. I can't. And so then you are a living proof that you are helpless. You are powerless. You are not worthy. You are not all the things that you unconsciously believe because you have the wounds. All of these things accumulate to make you so exhausted. The weight becomes so great on your energetic being, which trickles to your physical being. Not trickles. It's connected to your physical being, impacts your physical being. And now this giant weight is on you, and you can't even lift your arms above your head. You can't lift them up to your shoulders. You can't lift your legs to get up the stairs. You can't lift your own body off the floor. You become so burdened, so weighed down by these things that your life shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. And so I was talking about the process of breathing and how long it takes, because this is an accumulation of so many years, and it's all unconscious. And so there's no fault or blame. There's no fault or blame here. You had to do it to protect yourself. You're a sensitive being, but now it's your job and your gift, your opportunity to learn how to heal it. And when you learn how to heal it, you'll learn how to never go back to that place again. And in the process of healing these wounds, taking these wounds off of you, off of your aura, off of your energetic being and your physical being, you discover who you really are, your true self, and who your soul brought to this planet to be. What is your purpose-filled life? What are your purposes? What's the thing that you're meant to do on this planet? And that is so exciting. I don't care who you are, what you are, where you are in your life. That is exciting, because we all need purpose. We all need purpose. And back to the breathing again, and the nervous system. This takes time because it's an accumulation of so many years. It takes so much time to learn how to respond to the environment via your nervous system in a productive way, in a healthy way. that's what the process of healing, a lot of the process of healing is not just healing the wounds, just to cut that tie, that rope off of the beliefs, so the beliefs don't really have anything to hang on to anymore, and then you can easily change the beliefs. Once you heal the wounds, the beliefs are easy to change because there's no rope tying to them to the ground, tying them to your body. So it's not only about healing the wounds so that you can eliminate the source of the beliefs and the thoughts, and then actually shifting the thoughts and the beliefs. Those are crucial parts of this process. But what I'm talking more about in this video is the nervous system in particular, and breathing can help it, can calm it, not just help it, it can calm it, which is a feat in of itself. It calms the nervous system. But the thing is, you have to heal the wounds at the same time, or else the nervous system will keep just going back, because you keep getting confirmation from the environment of the wound. But once the wounds are healed, then you can shift the way you perceive the entire world and the way you see yourself, because then you start to see who you really are, and that's exciting. And then you can't help but sort of get excited and like yourself, and then learn how to love yourself too. This is a long process because, and you can probably tell just by all the different areas that I'm talking about, just one of those takes months and months, sometimes years, but more months. If you're really focused on them, it can happen pretty quick. It happens sort of in the background of your life once you get your nervous system to a certain point where you're functional again. Then you it's like to me, it's actually my primary focus. And all the other things, work and other things, are my secondary, because once you've been debilitated and you're getting better, then you're never going back there again. So that healing is always my primary focus. And every time I get distracted by some stressful thing in my life, or some, we're traveling, or, there's just like a time deadline, or something's happening, my health immediately suffers, because I lose that connection and I lose that focus on always improving my nervous system, always working to heal old wounds. I'll say that there are lots of steps, partial steps in this process that are important, are helpful to know about. I remember a certain period when I was getting much better, my nervous system was getting much better, but still, I would have most of the day where I was calm. And then again, something would activate me, and then if I didn't notice it quickly enough, which is what happens in the beginning because you're just learning how to notice, my nervous system would get more and more activated. And by the time I noticed, I would be panicky and stressed and just and angry at everything and everybody around me, because it's like, you are doing to me, you're doing this to me, my environment's doing this to me, get it away, get it away. I would get myself all worked up because I knew the nervous system was so important. And it was also frustration that I hadn't noticed earlier, because I'd worked so hard on it. It's like, why didn't I notice earlier? But what I didn't realize, I didn't have all this knowledge back then. And so I'm trying to impart it on you, that if you start looking at your nervous system as a message from your soul of how to respond in a given moment to whatever you're dealing with, and have compassion for yourself, that this is a long process of learning how to see your nervous system, how to feel your nervous system, and how to know how to respond to your nervous system again. It takes time. It takes time. So patience is this embedded need to be easier on yourself when these moments arise when you're like, well, why didn't I notice earlier? Or going to this place of, well, I can't handle this. I can't handle this. I can't handle this. I can't handle this. You're right in a way that you've gotten overstimulated and it's too much. But you're wrong, because you can handle it. You just have to learn how. It just takes practice. So often talking to myself as a child, as if I was talking to my own child lately, has been helping me. And that kind of tone, it's like, it just takes practice. You can do this. You can do this. You can learn this. It just takes practice. You can learn this. Yes, you're overwrought right now. It's time to go and do breathing. For example, when I was raising my son and I would have a phone call, I would need to have a phone call, or I would be talking to somebody, and he's needing me, and I'm trying to please both. I'm trying to, calm him, and then, okay, by the end of the conversation, I am so stressed. My whole nervous system is contorted. My whole abdomen is strained and tight. And that's another thing, is to start noticing what are the physical symptoms that you notice first when you are activated. For me, it's my abdomen. My abdomen gets so strict and tight that that's the first thing I notice. And it's like, by the end of a situation like that, I'm so tense. But what would happen is, I would think I was fine and I'll just brush it off and I'd keep going. But no, what needs to happen is that after a situation like that, I needed to go and do a breathing exercise, a meditation, and calm my nervous system way down. And there are so many, when you're going on this process, there are going to be so many moments like this. And my hope for you is that you have somebody to help you, so that if you have children or people to take care of, that you can say, I need a minute to go calm my nervous system. And hopefully you have supportive people that can help you do that. And if not, just do the best you can. Use a video for your child for a short time. And I don't like advocating for screen time, but when you're healing, you have to heal yourself. And if you don't have any other options, a short time, and after which you can pay a lot of attention and have a lot of interpersonal time with your child, I believe is fine. That's sort of the belief that I used, that the interpersonal time is the time that is so important and for developing the human brain. And so a short time with video while mommy calms down is needed and worth it. Because I can't be a good parent when my nervous system is jacked up and I can't calm it down. You don't want that mommy around. And again, I don't know if you can relate to this. I don't know if you're a parent or if you have anyone any responsibilities or things to take care of. You want to have your nervous system calm. So I'm going on way too long today. I could go on and on about the nervous system. Because it's the thing in these illnesses. It's especially adrenal fatigue. It's the thing you have to learn how to calm, and it's a long process, and it can be challenging, and it can be frustrating and demoralizing. But if you know, and what I'm trying to share with you today is that it is a process, and the whole process is about how you learn how to see when your nervous system is responding, how it's responding, and how to react to calm yourself, how to respond to that information, to see that as information from your soul and spirit. And even, oh my gosh, if you could say, thank you for this message from my soul and spirit, this message into my nervous system. Thank you for this message. And then go and learn how to respond in a way that calms you the best way that you can. Over time, you're not gonna need any of this, and you're gonna be able to respond, and you're gonna be able to notice all these things that actually do shift your nervous system that you didn't even realize they did before. But now you're developing a real acute sensitivity to how the environment impacts your nervous system, and that's pretty cool. So that's the end result. But there are lots of steps in the middle, and I'm going to be making a course on this eventually, sometime soon. Maybe by the time you're watching this, there will be a course available about breathing and calming the nervous system, and if so, it'll be in the description below, a link to it. But that's all I have for today. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope you all have a beautiful rest of the day, and I will see you on the next video. Bye!